You're still watching Ways hashtag What Are You Saying? Now, if you just tuned in and you're just joining, tonight we're going to be looking at the bill that has been pushed by the House of Representatives to force public officials to patronize public service. However, the bill has actually scaled the first reading. There are too many questions, and pundits are already saying, what exactly are we about at this point in time? Can this bill even make it to the second reading or even scale through entirely? But this is the crux of the conversation. Now, the push for the private institutions and healthcare service providers prohibition bill of 2025 is driven by concerns over the neglect of public services despite significant government spending. Nigeria allocated 1.336 trillion naira to the health sector in 2024, that's last year, yet over $1 billion is spent annually on medical treatment abroad, and $38.17 million goes to foreign education. That was reported in the first quarter of 2024 alone. Proponents of this bill argue that restricting access to private service will pressure leaders to invest meaningful in local schools and hospitals. Now, joining us to make sense of all of this is a Right Honorable, he's a legal practitioner, John Gall Lebo, a former Speaker of the Cross River State House of Assembly. John Gall, it's good to have you join me tonight.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Yes, please. Let us start the conversation from here. The proponents of this particular bill, I'm sure you're probably in the know of the bill 2025, seeking to prohibit public officials or politicians from patronizing public services and saying, hey, it's a taboo. Now, according to these proponents and those who are supporting and moving this bill, they're saying that restricting access to private services will pressure leaders to invest meaningfully in local schools and hospitals. Do you agree with the proponents of this bill? Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Yes. The bill is a good legislative proposal because every bill must start by way of a legislative proposal, and I believe that every legislature must have a policy baseline upon which he is introducing a particular bill, and also depending on the quality of the bill must also have a constitutional or institutional backing to ensure that, nobody goes to court after the bill has been passed to set it aside as being inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution. Now, so to start with this bill, let's take a constitutional overview of the provision of this bill. The only provision of the Nigeria 1999 Constitution as amended, providing for compulsory provision of medical facilities, health facilities, private health services in the country, is Section 17 of the Constitution. And that Section 17 of the Constitution deals with fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policies. The implication of that particular provision or section of the bill is that that section of the law of the Constitution is not enforceable. That is, no Nigerian can go to court and file an action against government to ensure that government enforces the provision of Section 17. In other words, there is no provision in the Constitution that compels the Nigerian government, to use that word, to provide mandatorily medical facilities, medical infrastructure, and which has constitutional penalties to punish government for the failure. What you only have as statutory provision, for instance, the national health policy of the federal government and the different policies of various states implemented by the Federal Ministry of Justice. So for me, I'm very skeptical. If I were a legislator, I would not introduce such a bill. I'm very skeptical of the fact that the bill is like trying to roof a house that has no foundation. The foundation of our medical system is that it has gone through a period of degradation for such a long time. I would say probably since after independence, or since the military takeover in 1976 or so, our medical facilities have been going down. Now, government has not made any investment in our medical infrastructure. First of all, from the personnel itself, from primary healthcare centers, to secondary healthcare facilities, to medical doctors, to infrastructure. Basic things at hospital. If you go to a primary healthcare center in the local government, it's inhabited by animals, by goats, and all of that. If you go to some health sectors across the state owned by state government, you will find that none of facilities have the required number of doctors required. Some states don't even have enough doctors in their states. So to provide such a facility, such a law by virtue of an act of the National Assembly, if I have my way, I'll just go to court and say that this provision of the law does not have any constitutional backing and constitutional foundation. And the Supreme Court or the various conflicts get to the Supreme Court to set it aside.
But let's move away from, I mean, like you started off, you said that it's actually a good one. That's what you said. And I'm sure that the proponents of this bill mean very good for the people. So let's also not even take out the fact that recently we lost the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And, you know, shortly afterwards, there's been a public outcry over the years. And even shortly after we lost the president, who has been, even up until the point where he was still president, receiving medical attention from the hospitals in the United Kingdom. And so just maybe this has also fallen on the ears of your members of the House of, you know, the lawmakers, as we'd like to put it. But, you know, looking at it now, without looking at the legal aspect to it, the constitutional aspect of it, to say that having to propose this bill on its own, you know, would compel, you know, the leaders of our country to invest meaningful in the health sectors, in the education sector, and across board. Do you actually agree with that? So, because you have made actually a proposition saying it doesn't have a constitutional backing, and that's the position. But those who actually are proposing this bill, the proponents of this bill, mean well. They want to see, you know, public services at its highest level. They want to see the president being treated in Nigeria, governors being treated, speakers, and what have you. So do you think that this particular move alone can compel, you know, the politicians, this include governors, lawmakers, senators across the entire country, to begin to pay attention to providing very critical and important public service?
I would say that, like I stated in my opening statement, this bill is needed. A bill of this nature, in terms of the policy objective that is set out to achieve, is needed. In terms of, you know, some of the critical issues that we require in the country relating to revamping the health sector, this bill is important. But I think that this bill requires a deeper legislative engineering, a deeper legislative architecture to be able to achieve these objectives. And then whatever this bill set us to achieve we must start it in piecemeal. Okay, can we first of all compare government to provide the basic infrastructure first, from the primary healthcare center to the secondary healthcare centers first? Can we compare government to make sure that certain provisions of our budget is dedicated to the health sector, and that provision is monitored through due process and transparency to ensure that those facilities are actually provided? Can we be able to find a law that will compare state, local government, and federal government to dedicate certain funding to certain healthcare infrastructure mandatorily, and government is held responsible and accountable? Can the National Assembly members be honest enough to receive the constitution, what's it called, to receive oversight responsibility, to receive constituency project related to the health sector facility in their local government, and they will execute that project to the letter? Would they be honest enough to collect contracts for the reviving primary healthcare center, providing updated medical facilities, even to take care of the people at the local government? And the National Assembly members, the House of Reps and Senators, will be honest enough to implement those projects to the end? Can we start with that? If a member of the House of Reps or the senator or the governor of a state or the local government chairman is unable to meet a certain percentage of that medical infrastructure, beginning from the primary health care center, can we have a provision of the law that provides for punishment and punitive measure for the government officials? Because it starts from that point. Now, you cannot compel private persons or government. Yes, you can stop government officials by policy. You can stop government officials by a policy of the federal government. If the Federal Executive Council, for instance, passes a resolution as President Tinubu says, none of my ministers will go abroad for medical checkup during the tenure of your service as minister, that withhold. That's even not a law, it's a policy. If the governor of a state comes out and says, all my commissioners, including myself, nobody can leave the country for medical checkup, you must have your medical checkup and medical patronized local hospitals, that can hold. If the local government chairman is doing the same, if the Speaker of the House of Assembly is doing the same, that can hold. That policy can hold. Such a law may hold water. But the point is that unless government starts from that point of view, by leading by example, through a policy, a general law will not apply. I do not see a reason why a private citizen who is suffering from the failure of government, lack of government competitive advantage or lack of government competence to provide basic legal facilities. For instance, he has a prostate or he has kidney or life-threatening ailments, and the only opportunity he has is to travel to Ghana to achieve such medical treatment with his own private funds. Then he's told that it is stopping you from traveling abroad. How does that help the situation? It doesn't solve any problem. So the legislative architecture is very wrong. So like I said, I commend the bill, but the bill does not have a deep legislative engineering process. It should go back. There are certain basic things you need to put in place before you bring such a bill into law. Otherwise, this bill is just another political highlight. It's something we are in the area of politics. So people are trying to impress themselves and their constituents. So you say, I passed a bill stopping people from traveling. Even the member who proposed the bill himself, can you stop him from traveling abroad to have free medical treatment if he's sick? If he has the funding, he will go. The same with private citizens. So my argument is that, first of all, can we focus first on the bill that hold governments responsible? Look, local governments, the local government, the state and federal government this month alone shared 1.8 trillion from the federation allocation. Put that money across. There is no state that will not get up to 10 billion naira. There's no local government that will not get up to 500 million. What are they doing with it? Can we say that there should be a law passed by the local government, by the state and the federal government, compelling the state to say 30% of what you receive every month should be dedicated to your health center? In my state, for instance, and in my local government, we have 10 council wards. We have 10 primary health care centers. I doubt if any of them is functioning. And so at the end of the day, even ordinary poor people cannot go to the primary care health center. The traditional birth attendants are the ones delivering women. So, why will you now bring a bill that will stop someone who has somewhere to get free medical services, maybe abroad or anywhere else, from going, private persons, talking about government? Because first of all, this bill, no government official will obey this bill. They will not obey it. It's just like passing a bill to say stop people from going abroad to study in universities abroad. If you don't provide the quality of service that are being provided abroad, why will you stop people from doing that? So first, fix the system, put the system in place. Let me tell you, it is only the rich and politicians who have the resources that can cope with the current exchange rate of $1,540 per naira to buy tickets and go abroad and go to India and go to London and go to the UK and have medical treatment. The ordinary poor people can't even leave their villages. So I believe that we should go back first. My argument is the bill is a good proposal. It's well intended, but because of the depth of our structural problems, because of the depth of our corruption, because of the depth of decay of medical infrastructure, including education and other sectors. Look, the healthcare sector is not a standalone sector. The healthcare sector is a sector-wide sector. It depends on other sectors to survive. You have the universities, you have the capacity building for medical doctors. Look, go to the hospital. There are about 11 different other professionals who work in hospitals. I mean, the laboratory attendants, nurses, midwives, and various other sets of people. That is the whole industry. Can we even provide for a bill that takes care of the welfare of our doctors, our nurses? Can we provide for a bill that supports? There are a lot of people who have set up private medical hospitals in Nigeria with good intention. Inflation is driving them out. They can't afford. The cost of services is poor.
Okay, John, but in the course of our conversation, you did mention that, if you literally had like an executive orders from state government, the president, at the federal level, that it could also be respected and implemented. But I want us to cast our minds back, to 2020, when the late president, unfortunately, may God continue to rest his soul, when there was an executive order tender in 2020 that, authorized financial autonomy for the local government and the judiciary. Exactly, trying to enforce that section of the Constitution 1999 as amended, 121, Section 3. But what happened? We saw that the governments actually, state governors, what did they do? There is consent about, that particular executive order. Some of them approached the courts. There was huge resistance from governors across the entire states of the Federation. We didn't see compliance. So again, even if there was an executive order to this effect, do you think that can actually make way? Because we have literally seen disregard for the rule of law, disobedience for executive order.
Well, first of all, I propose an executive order because if today I am taking an oath as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and I know that there's an executive order and I signed an oath that I'm not going to travel out of the country during the pendency of my tenure as minister, and I'm compelled to have free medical services attention or services in Nigeria. If I'm the Minister of Health, I'll be in a hurry to fix it, or at least give me one hospital that I can go to. If I'm compelled to say none of your children as a minister or your family members can travel out of the country, I will be compelled to fix one hospital in Abuja for my family to stay. If I know that I'm going to lose my job, there'll be a penalty provision for traveling abroad for medical checkup. And I will be compelled to ensure that something happens. So my point is this: you do not treat a cancer by taking a one bullet shot of injection that would attack everything. You treat cancer through diagnosis, stage by stage. If it is headache that is associated with it, please reduce the headache first before you go into the veins, pain from the veins. So let us start with, can we have even 10% compliance by the top level politicians who are the ones who are responsible for the lack of implementation of financial provisions to put the medical facilities together? So first of all, if the president of the state or if the president of the country makes such an order by executive order, no member of the Federal Executive Council will go to court to say, I want to set aside that order. They will remove it from office. The same thing will happen to the governors. The point I'm making is this: can we even start? Our problem is that from the top, there's a lack of political will and a lack of transparency to execute and implement provisions that will ensure that our medical facilities are put up to date, and to ensure that our doctors are retained in Nigeria, to ensure that we are getting the best quality of drugs in Nigeria, to ensure that we have the best quality of test kits. Look at ordinary malaria, for instance. Look at ordinary malaria. And now these days, you go to a hospital, you run a test for malaria, you buy a drug. After 2, 3, 4 days, you are back again. So all of these issues have to be dealt with. Why do you have malaria? Why do you have typhoid? Your environment, dirty environment, poor drinking water facility. This thing is a holistic issue. So my argument is that let us start with piecemeal. Let this bill, let the National Assembly members themselves agree among themselves to pass a bill to compel all members of the National Assembly within the period of their service as members of national, including the Senate president, not to travel out of the country for free medical checkups. Let's leave members of the public first, and let us see how that works. Because this bill is going to be passed, and this bill.
All right, John Gall, unfortunately, we have been disconnected. We'll take a quick break, just maximize this now. And when we return, the conversation continues right here. Please stay with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we will bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
You're still watching Ways, hashtag what are you saying? If you just tuned in, we're talking about the fact that there's a bill that's actually made it, scaled the first reading, and this particular bill pushes for the private institution and the healthcare service providers. That's the tag of the bill, Private Institutions and Healthcare Service Providers Prohibition Bill of 2025. Now, and according to the proponent, those who are motivated by these bills and the concerns that have been raised is that over the years and over time, there's been a neglect, if you like to say, of public services, despite significant government spendings to, the health sector, the education sector, and what have you. Now, those who are actually for this bill are saying that restricting access to private services will pressure leaders to invest meaningful in local schools and hospitals. Of course, we have Right Honorable legal practitioner, you want to say, Barrister John Lebo, who is a former Speaker of the Cross River State House of Assembly, has joined us tonight to make sense of all of this. Now, as you always, would like you to be part of the conversation. That means we'd like to hear your thoughts and what you have to say. All you need to do is join the conversation by sending an SMS or WhatsApp to the numbers 081-8038-4663, 081-8038-4663, SMS, WhatsApp to that number. The phone lines are also open. It means you can call the number 070-250-07749 or 0701-42 and 242420. Let's hear your thoughts on this one. Thank you so much, Right Honorable John Lebo, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now, before that break, fantastic conversation that we're having, but I'd like to ask you, do we need to have a bill? Do we need any executive order? Do we need any form of cohesion, any sort of law in place to compel our politicians, to compel those who are calling the shots and running the affairs of this country to provide basic things as having a functional healthcare institution or having, functional educational systems where people can come from other parts of the world to be part of?
Well, like I said earlier, yes, we have the capacity, we have the resources, we have the human capacity development index materials to be able to deal with the issues you have raised, being able to provide for the basic infrastructure, public health infrastructure to cater for our citizens and to ensure that we provide the best services so that people can come from outside of the country. And so it will be useless for a Nigerian to travel abroad to do certain things if the quality of that service is available. Now, let's just take an illustration. This used to be the situation with the educational sector, where public universities were having issues to deal with the number of admissions coming in, where you find maybe like 100 million applicants through JAM, and the spaces available is less than 20 million. And then it left to racketeering. People will stay at home for several years to be able to get admission. Then the federal government went by the way of privatization, and we had private universities. Now look at it today. You have private universities are rated among the best private universities in the world and in Africa. As I speak to you, the top 10 best universities in Africa, there are about 4 Nigerian universities in it. I can tell you that people are leaving other African countries to come to attend universities in Nigeria.
All right, John, we need to take this call quickly now, and I'm being told that we have a caller. Let's take this call now. Hello, Lama, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, my sister.
Good evening, Lama. How are you?
I'm fine. Good evening, our honorable in the house.
Thank you.
See, I want to let us know one particular thing. This bill can never, ever see the light of the day. In Nigeria, we have freedom of expression, freedom of choice. You cannot force me to go to a public hospital or public school when maybe I know that if I go to those ones, you have not brought out laws. You have not done the necessary thing that will make them to be viable. And you tell me to go to, I will go to the private, where my life, where they can take care of my life. Well, you cannot see, sometimes our politicians always miss out. There are some certain things they need to do, just like they are talking about investigating the NNPC. These are the things they need to do. The high cost of things to.
No. All right. Unfortunately, it looks like we've been disconnected. Loma, you can call us back or probably just send a message now. John, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Now,
okay,
one of the things... Go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying that, first of all, my primary argument is that for this bill to see the light of the day, there are certain baseline legislative infrastructure and tools that need to be provided first. And the first is that if the public finance management of our public funds must be emphasized first of all. And I'll give you a typical example. If we can dedicate even 10% of the resources available to this local government, to states, and to the federal government in the health sector, and there is a bill to compel the ministry or the various departments to say you must meet a certain standard of improvement of medical infrastructure. If you have 10 or 200 primary health care centers in a state, in 1 year, please take at least 10% and fix them up to standard. What will happen is that people will leave other local government to that particular health center and have that done. If you do the same thing for the state government and you find that this health facility, the private hospital or the general hospital, this is the one that is updated with quality facilities, people will go there. And then nobody will leave the quality of a good hospital to that hospital. I'll tell you a typical example. Recently, there's been an initiative by some state government, including Cross River State Government, working with the Indian hospital to bring to Tulsi Chan Foundation to carry out operation with respect to eye operations, ear and nose. Now, ENT as they call it. Now, the facility that they are providing in Calabar is one of the best in the country. People fly all the way from different locations to Calabar to go and attend to that hospital. I can assure you that that is going on. There's another hospital in Calabar that is one of the best diagnostic centers, owned by a retired general. People fly from all over the country to go to that. So the point I'm making is that if we don't improve the quality of medical facilities available in Nigeria, you cannot compare somebody to go to hospitals. Some hospitals today are just like mortuaries. People go there and then they don't get the best service and they die. I had a situation of a friend of mine who went for an operation and they forgot certain tools in his body. He came back, had swelling and died out of medical negligence. So the situation is bad. So you can now bring in a bill to compel people to only take advantage, to only patronize medical facilities in Nigeria. It's like saying every Nigeria should die in his house or end up in some of the bad medical facilities provided in the country. Have you looked at the quality?
John, John, in the course of all of this now,
produced by some hospital? Have you looked at the issue of quack doctors or drugs?
But John, the reason for this, I mean, is that Okay, so I'm being told that we have Loma back on the line. We'll just quickly take Loma. Loma, thank you for joining us. Hopefully we have a smooth conversation. Hello, Loma. Loma, you probably have to call us back or send us a text message. John, this is what it is. It is because we're not getting that investment, the attention of our leaders. And I'm sure that Amobi, who is actually the proponent of this bill, because he proposed this bill, that's what's running through his mind. So all of the others... Okay, Loma is back on the line. Hello, Loma.
Yeah, I want please, you have other to make things better.
Loma, we would really love to share your thoughts, but the network is totally not, pleasant at this point in time. Would it be okay if you send us a text message? I'd like to read what you have to say. Please do send us a text message. I'm willing to read all of that out tonight. Now, John, I'm saying that I'm sure that, Amobi, who's a proponent of this bill, has thought about the fact that every other angle has failed. We have literally failed at providing it. It looks as though we have to do something to arrest people, like get the attention of those who are calling the shots to say, hey, it's like you're not listening to what's going on or you're not seeing what's going on. And so this is the reason why we have that. Because again, if you constantly say, oh, we need to invest this, let's take a quick look. 2025 is here. The budget, the federal government of Nigeria proposed budget for the health sector for 2025 is 2.48 trillion naira, which just represents 5.8% of the total budget. That's the allocation. And to be very honest, it's significantly lower than the 15% that has been recommended by the Abuja Declaration. Again, we do not even meet it. So how can we get to a point where we have all the facilities working? For instance, can we even have the Aso Rock Clinic work? Can it even be functional enough to at least, because I'm not the one who is going to be treated at the Aso Rock Clinic now. So how can we get the Aso Rock Clinic to function so we can at least treat our own president, so that the president does not have to go abroad to seek medical attention? Or how can we get a hospital that is good enough to treat our president, regardless of the ailment or the sickness or whatever it is you want to say? We're not saying for the common man, we're just saying, how can we get that? I don't know. Oh, well, hopefully I have John connect with us, because these are the issues. If you're listening or you're watching, it's okay to join the conversation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, John. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead. Oh no. Now,
yes. Okay. So let me draw. Let me give you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. So let me give you an instance. In 1978, there was a national medical bill designed to ensure that we improve our medical facilities, beginning from providing for teaching hospitals across all the universities offering medicine in the country. It was from that policy that today you have every hospital has a teaching hospital across the country. What is a teaching hospital? The teaching hospital is a hospital that is even used to train medical doctors, treat doctors themselves. That means that it should be the best hospital. It is in that hospital that they are allowed to have medical laboratories, where they can find maybe some dead bodies and they use it for the purpose of analysis of anatomy of physiological situations. So first of all, the foundation of your medical services, which is your medical personnel, ought to have started from your teaching hospitals. But the question is that, between me and you now, go back and check the quality of the teaching hospital, whether you can find even one or two of them who are at the level. In other countries, teaching hospitals would have been places where the president of countries can be treated, the governors of the state can be treated in teaching hospital. Why? Because when you go to a teaching hospital, you may find up to 20 or 50 professors of medicine who have practiced medicine for more than 20, 40, 30 years themselves, teaching there and looking at medical situations, doing medical research and be able to deal with it. But those teaching hospitals are in shambles. You go to some of them, no water, no light. NEPA cuts off light, they can't pay their bills, they don't have water, and the doctors themselves, you know, the medical students go through that teaching hospital in a very horrific experience when they have their medical year. The same thing with nurses. The same thing with the medical lab technicians. They go to the teaching hospital to learn. The foundation of that health sector crumbles from the failure of our teaching hospitals to provide our services. Now back to Amobi's bill. Like I said, it's a good bill, good intention. Maybe once the law is passed, it may be a way to compel and say, okay, I don't know what the penalty provision is, whether you're going to say you are going to arrest people at the airport who are going for medical checkup. If you find out from that they are going for medical checkup abroad, you arrest them, detain them. Somebody is sick, he wants to go abroad, then you arrest him.
So are you saying that we need to have some sort of penalty? If this has to work, there has to be penalty. But again, we have seen several bills and laws that there are penalty. Who is implementing it?
This in my opinion, is that this bill should have a better legislative engineering. It should have a foundation of certain activities, certain steps that need to be taken before you get to the point of compelling people to receive medical services in Nigeria. There are different layers of physical responsibility, different layers of political responsibility, different layers of executive responsibility required for us to. We have not.
All right, so let's hear your thoughts on the conversation. Remember that you can join this conversation. All you need to do is send a message, SMS or WhatsApp to the number 08180384663. The numbers also, phone lines are open. It means you can also call in on the show and let's hear your thoughts. Loma, I'm so sorry. The network hasn't been quite favorable. 070-250-07749 or 0701 42 and 42 and 420. Let's hear your thoughts tonight. We have been speaking with former Speaker of the Cross River State House of Assembly, Right Honorable John Lebo, who's also a legal practitioner. And John, if you can hear me, so where do we move from now? How can we, as a country, you know, fix our system, I mean, the healthcare system? Where do we move from here? Fix the healthcare system in such a way that we don't need to have that capital, you know, flight, the transfer of cash. Because for every other time, if you look at how much was expended alone in, you know, travels, we were spending 1 billion naira. That was for the first quarter of 20. Can you hear me, please? Okay. So I'm saying, John, can you hear me? But the big question now is if the proponents of this bill, because the bill is actually probably well thought out, again, there are too many questions that are begging for answers. Don't forget, already it looks as though we have, it's a political season, even though it ought not to be, because 2027 is quite far. And don't forget that, you know, those who want to get power, by all means, will do anything to get power. So some people think that this is also, you know, another way to score cheap political points and also get Nigerians quite excited. And that will be it. Because, again, the problem with us over time, if you look at it, we've had several executive orders. We have lofty laws and policies. And it's not that the country, Nigeria, or the entity, or whatever part of Nigeria that you find yourself in lacks laws or policies. No, that's not the problem. The problem with us is that there are too many laws. But then again, when you have laws without implementation, representation? What do you tag that? That's exactly what we're faced with. So again, if you have this bill who's saying, well, we need to compel, this is just another bill. It's just a bill to get people excited or just to score some, political points and chip scores ahead of the elections? Or is this really, really intended? And if this is intended, what measures have been taken to ensure that this become a thing? On the other hand, you want to ask yourself, do we also need to begin to put laws in place and say, hey, we have to kill you, we have to take your job, before you ensure that you have a hospital? First off, let's even be very serious. Can we even have the Aso Rock Clinic functioning? Can we have the hospital that can cater to the need of the first man in this country? We're not talking about the poor man. We're even saying let the president be treated in this country. Let governors and all the lawmakers, can they even seek medical attention here? Why are they leaving? What's the essence? We will just, get back with John Gall and get his final thoughts as we coast this conversation down. John, thank you so much. Unfortunately, the network hasn't been quite favorable, but these are the issues that we're talking about. So as a way to coast the conversation down, how do we get to have a world-class hospital or hospitals across the entire country and become the giant of Africa? And maybe someday we could have the chancellor from Germany coming to Nigeria to seek medical attention. What do you think we need to do? And maybe, the prince of... and the kings and their kids could come to Nigeria to public school. What exactly do you think we need to do? When I say we, all hands are on deck now.
Okay, first of all, the medical sector is a vital and investment-likable sector in the country, like the education sector. So first, my argument is that first, government should provide the enabling environment so that investors can come into the medical sector and provide those infrastructure. It does not mean that the hospitals must be provided by the federal government or by Nigerians. If the environment is investment friendly, if people can make their profit if they invest here, we set up that structure here. So let's provide the enabling environment. The inflation rate is too high. I don't see of any foreigner or anybody serious who will come to Nigeria to set up something in the health sector in this country and end up with profit. That's one. Number two is that the government itself, the government that is responsible for the management of budget and policies relating to the health sector, should lead by example, by first of all, making sure that even if it is 1% of funding provided for the health sector, that funding is put to action. For instance, now, you just mentioned the Aso Rock Hospital. How many years will it take? 1 year budget is enough to fix up that Aso Rock Hospital so that the president can have basic medical treatment. Let's start with that first. If the law compels the president from traveling out of the country, but he must take his medical treatment in Aso Rock Clinic, by law, during the pendency of his tenure, they'll fix the Aso Rock Hospital. If the law compels the governor to say the government has clinic in every state, must be fixed up to date, otherwise this will happen, that will happen. If the law compels the chairman of the local government to do the same, that will happen. Unless we start from the top, this will not happen. You cannot bring a law and then move into the National Assembly. National Assembly members must be compelled to have their treatment in the National Assembly Hospital or in the National Hospital. National Hospital in Abuja, how many National Assembly members will go there? Can we have a law compelling them to attend it? The chairman has committee on health or the various members of the House who collect constituency projects relating to health infrastructure and facilities in their local government. Can they be held accountable? Can they provide those facilities? Let's start from that point. Like I said, we do not treat cancer by firing one bullet shot. There's no magic bullet, medicine that can cure everything. Let's start bit by bit. Can we start by holding government accountable and responsible? Let all elected officers, let this bill say all elected officers during the pendency of your tenure of office, you cannot travel out of the country. You must get your medical services here so that they'll be compelled to make that happen. It is at that point that we can now spill that over across the various sectors of the economy. There's a lot other that needs to happen for welfare of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, medical health practitioners, and all of that. But let us start with somewhere.
All right, John, we have to let you go now. Thank you so much. We have been speaking with the Right Honourable Member, I beg your pardon, former member of the Cross River State House of Assembly, John Golebo. Thank you so much for making out time to be part of the conversation tonight. We do appreciate you. Looking forward to more of this conversation. And that's the much that we can take, although I mean, you talk about those orders, talk about the law enforcement, but again, who would actually ensure that these laws are respected or these orders are complied? Because, for instance, we have seen that up until this moment, governors had challenged and they've gone to court, a lot of them, talking about, you know, the autonomy for the judiciary and the local government. Thank you so much for being part of the show tonight. Definitely return tomorrow. My name is Messi Bopo. To have a good evening.